we can just kick off with Dune and get that rolling because I want to know what happens in Dune Part Two. I've read the book, right? So I'm
Yes.
excited for it. I said it in the pre-show. I won't see it till it streams, but that has nothing to do with my desire to actually see it. I think this movie's going to be awesome. I think it's done really well at the box office, so I'm ready to hear more about it.
I'm really going to gush about this movie, so I feel like I need prompts or something because otherwise I'm going to just fangirl and just I'm really excited about. Lauren, did you see Dune?
I have not.
Man, I don't. So what before we start or whatever, how what's the spoiler ability on this podcast? Like, and I am are we
For,
doing sweeping generalizations?
for
Are
Dune,
we
I would say it's a free for all. I mean, Dune's been out for
The book came out in 65.
in its own
in
form and
60s?
fashion. Yeah, it's been
That's why it's
around for
like
like 60 years. So I think
Yeah,
we're
okay,
I think we're okay.
okay.
yeah.
That's kind of what I was hoping you'd say, but I just wanted to make sure. Because obviously the movie is going to differ from the source material.
Sure.
All right. Well, I'll just start. So when I talk about movies or anything, I'm not even that plottish. I'm just more about like how it made me feel or kind of the things around it. So the first thing I'm going to say is I was blown away by the visuals, and I gotta say that Dennis Villeneuve, the fact that I'm saying your name right means a lot because now I'm a fan. As a matter of fact, I would say visually, you are now officially my favorite director. OMG. There were so many shots that were just jaw-dropping, gorgeous. I mean, I need to know the names of the bad people, but the Harkonnen planet, like all those scenes that were in black and white, it was very Riefenstahl 1933. Like it was crazy. Just the sandworms riding scenes, OMG, like the
It's
whole
huge.
dude. I mean, like I left this film like kind of like I remember as a kid when I would see like Blade Runner and go, man, it must have been so cool to see this movie like on the big screen, right? This is one of those movies where it's like people for years are going to look back at this movie and be like, this was epic. This was legendary. Everyone brought their A game. I don't think there's any weak links as far as actors go. I don't care if you're talking about Bautista. I don't care if you're talking about Zendaya. I don't even care if you're talking about the lead, which I'm forgetting his name right now, but
Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy killed it. His mom killed it. Like, Thanos killed it. Anyway, like everybody killed it. Like it was, I mean, anyway, so that's my first like initial thing. It was a gorgeously shot film, and it definitely moved, I think, fast. Even Elvis killed it. All right.
Yeah.
Go Sarah.
Yeah. Extremely atmospheric. Like that was I don't think there were slow parts for the movie, but if there were, you were just absolutely sucked in just watching the visuals. And you already touched on it, the entire scene on the Harkonnen home planet, Getty Prime. It was a movie in and of itself, just a black and white, super atmospheric, very ominous, very creepy. It was uncomfortable the whole time. The whole thing was just really intense and big. And I was already a fan of, say his name again, Villeneuve.
Villanueva.
Villeneuve.
Dennis.
Villeneuve. I called him
I
Villanueva
used to say
before.
Villeneuve,
Villeneuve.
but now
It's
it's
French
Villanueva.
or something, isn't it? Or
Something.
Dutch? I don't know. But
It
either
sounds
way, I was
Hispanic to be like Spanish, like actually Spanish, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, like South American, maybe.
uh,
I gotta look it up. Keep going though.
I was already a fan of his. I loved Sicario. I loved you already mentioned Blade Runner 2024. Wait,
2029.
2029? 2029.
2040,
Yeah,
20, yeah,
2049.
something with a
Whatever.
20 and a 9.
Numbers. The
Yeah.
second Blade Runner.
He's from Canada. He's from Quebec.
Oh, so he's
Uh,
probably French. So
yeah,
it's a
probably
French
French then.
name. Okay. All right. Villanueva. Yeah, mad respect to him. And he wrote it too, didn't he? Or at least co-wrote it. So
He
he
adapted it.
definitely
Yeah. I mean, he
adapted it.
But the screenplay was him and this guy named John Spates, who also
Yeah.
worked with him on. Oh, John wrote Prometheus, Doctor Strange, Passengers,
Uh,
The Mummy, Dune and Dune Part 2. So John's got a good track record because the first
Heck
episode
yeah.
was good. All right,
Yeah.
sorry, keep going.
And no, it was just he obviously strayed from the source material, and a lot of it was timing. There were some time gaps in the source material that he nixed out of this one, and I'm still trying to think how I feel about one time gap, but the other time gap, the first time gap, I'm very much on board with how he did it. It just made for a very clean storyline, and obviously it helps with a book this complicated to have read it before, to know the source material, to kind of know what's going on. But I think even if you don't have that knowledge, I don't think the movie is as confusing as it could have been because of the liberties he took adapting the movie from the book. So I'm just absolutely floored. Kudos. I'm really glad he cut out some stuff from the source material that really didn't need to be in there and would have made moviegoers extremely uncomfortable. So I think he just did a phenomenal job. 10 out of 10.
So one of the things, so basically let's get to like the Fade. I think it's Fade Rotha and Paul duel, right? So when I saw it in the movie and then you see what happens, like I was trying to follow the blade. I didn't really follow it, so I was a little confused. So then I did some reading and then I read that Fade, like or Fod or whatever his name is, tried to kill Baron Harkonnen because after, you know, the whole like
several times.
Okay, in the book, I know in one of the scenes he actually kills all his like. So anyway, so this like so that to me was kind of like, wow, so the book is even deeper than the movie as far as certain plot points. So I'm wondering if you're referring to that stuff when you were saying that the audience being uncomfortable. But and even going even on that planet, dude, because this is how I get, right? Whenever I watch the movie, I go, who would I be and what would I do, right? So besides the fact that everyone probably smells terrible, but whatever. No, but like I was like, well, if I was born on the Harkonnen planet, I'd be like, man, this sucks. Like, I could just be killed for any reason because like one of the Harkonnens is mad at me for so like just take a knife, like, oh, it's not sharp enough, slice. Like what? Like, and that's just like that's your life, and you have to look all like zombied out. Anyway, no, oh my God. Okay, I'm gushing now. So you thought you're gonna gush? I'm gushing. So I feel like, and this is where I might get a little, but we'll find out. Like I was like, I think the person who wrote Attack on Titan was probably somewhat influenced by this because when you're talking about, you know, Paul being able to see the future and the past or whatever all at the same time and kind of having such conviction in terms of where he's going, and then even the fact like how the movie ends, you're kind of like Paul's doing what he needs to do, but I mean, is he turning heel? Like what's going on here? You know, that's very Aaron-ish, you know? So to me, it was like, so I love that too. Like I just, oh man. Okay. So yeah, we haven't talked about the plot. But I'm just saying like overall, like I now want to read the book because I didn't read the book, but now I want to read it. And again, it was just so beautifully shot.
Yeah. The book is a commitment because it is
dense.
It is dense and it's not fast paced and it's arguably over descriptive. Like Frank Herbert. I mean, there's a lot of words in there that, you know, you could probably cut out a third of the book just in, you know, extra verbiage and still get the entire story. But it is definitely a read. I have it on audiobook. That's actually how I got through it because I tried to read it and it's a lot. It's a lot and I don't have a lot of time. So it is really hard to get through. But for me, it's funny actually. Almost all of my reading I do either as I'm falling asleep. So usually I read a less dense book at night. But otherwise it's audiobooks and because it takes me 25 minutes to get to the grocery store, 20 minutes to get to the grocery store, I can actually get through a solid chunk of a book, you know, during the week, during, you know, the 10 minutes I take the kids to and from school. You know, I can actually get through a book relatively quickly. In that way. Not Dune. Dune, I think was I'll have to look at the audiobook, but I want to say it's something like 20 something hours in the
I was just
audiobook.
gonna say I'd say 27, something like that, 27, 29. Yep.
Yeah, because the ones I'm listening to now are maybe 10 hours. 10 to 12 hours is usually
Oh
like a
wow,
kind of standard audiobook. Like that's really where things end up. But Dune is like, yeah, it's a
bigger
lot.
than that.
I have a
Yeah.
question for
I
Sarah.
feel like if you also cut out all the internal monologue in the book, you'd
Hmm.
cut the book in, you'd maybe get 30% of the book because it's all conversation, internal monologue, analysis of the internal monologue,
Yeah.
world building, internal monologue about world building. It's internal monologue about
Yeah.
politics. It's dense.
Yeah,
So
and the way that it kind of bounces in time too is weird in the
Yep.
book too.
And perspective too. So not
Yeah.
only are we bouncing in time, but it's from one character to another. Like Paul's the main person, but he's not always.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're jumping from planets to people, it's a lot. It's a lot to follow.
Yeah, and then even the little chapter introduction sometimes just start to
By
reference stuff.
Princess Irulan.
Yeah, they start to reference things, and you're like, I don't know
Wait,
what
what?
you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly. Is this the future? Is this the
yeah,
past? You're not really sure about the time perspective for sure.
in the book,
yeah,
In the book. Yeah.
got it. Now, a lot of movies, like again, I keep bringing up Ready Player One. I feel like the books are better than the movie. It's almost a cliche. So, having read the books, in your opinion, Sarah, uh, which one's better? The book?
That's a fantastic question. And I will say yes. Um, and by yes, I'm not saying the book. I am saying to me, Dune is to sci-fi as Lord of the Rings is to fantasy. So saying is Lord of the Rings book better than the movie? They're both flipping amazing. So I don't think you can really say which one is better. Obviously, the book has more details,
Mhm.
but the movie is just visually amazing. So I
yeah.
think Dune is going to be this generation's Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
I'm
That's it.
saying that on camera
Yeah, no,
because
I think it's
it's
valid.
huge and the book is great, but it is very dense. It's not for everybody. And I think the movies will appeal to more people. And they're just visually amazing. And some of the holes in the book are a little bit more succinct in the movie. So I think it's a little bit easier to digest in movie form. But I think both the book and the movie are wonderful.
And I
Yeah,
want to
and
go
then,
back for, oh, sorry, I just gotta say, I want to go
yeah,
back
go
for a
ahead.
second, and just praise again the visuals because again,
Yep.
same source material, right? But I remember watching the 1984 Dune, and the Harkonnen seemed more like clowns. Like they were
Yeah.
not, they were just, they were not, they weren't this, you know?
And they
So
are vicious. In the book, they are absolute no redeeming qualities, evil, vicious, power hungry. You can barely call them people. They're awful.
yeah, so I feel like the movie, like at least Villeneuve did a better job of maybe capturing the essence of the book than maybe the 84 one
Yes.
did. Um, all right. I just so okay, so the book is so okay, here's my last question, and I'll turn the mic over. So how much of the black and the visualizations of the Harkonnens and that planet, Get Up Prime, I think it is, like how much of that was in the book versus how much of that was envisioned by the filmmakers?
I would say it's almost entirely envisioned. Um, yeah, it's like the black and the white. So one, uh, Fade Ratha is 17 years old. He's got black curly hair
Okay.
and
And he's
he's
bald
a
in this.
child, you
Yeah.
know. Vladimir Harkonnen is similar. He's awful. He's this lump of a human being. He can't walk. He's disgusting. He's depraved. He's violent. He's evil. So that goes pretty well with the descriptions in the book. But yeah, Fade Ratha is nothing like it. As far as the home planet goes, I think that's basically imagined because the way it's described in the book is it's a filthy place. Like, yeah, they get the vibes right for sure, because even in the book, it's just evil, just no one's comfortable. It's full of just it's bad.
Death and
It's a
violence.
bad place. Yeah, violence. But it's described in the book as actually disgusting, like dirty, evil.
Whereas
People
here
that live
was
there
like,
are like
clean.
starving and decrepit.
Yeah,
And where in the movie it's sterile, right?
yeah,
It's just this
sterile. Yes,
void
sterile.
of anything.
And they're goose stepping. Like to me, again, I just felt like that. It was, man. All right.
Perfect.
It was, yeah, it was, and the music. Uh,
It's like the evil
yeah.
empire, right? They nailed the music.
It all right.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, I love that they actually said it. They said, they didn't say plot within a plot. What was the actual word they said? Maybe it was plot within a plot that, I forget who even said it, but they actually said it in the movie and in the book several times. They say, "Oh, it's a plot within a plot. It's a plot within a plot. What you see going on isn't necessarily what's going on. Things have been in motion before that."
Right.
So I liked that little throwback to the source material, but also to let the audience know that things are happening. Not only what you're seeing, but things were happening in the background, and things are going to happen that will further excel this storyline.
The Bene Gesserit, I just gotta say that as well. I'm talking too damn much, but the Bene
Also
Gesserit,
evil.
he's so evil.
So
But like,
evil.
but they're kind of badass though. I mean, in a
I
way too,
mean,
because they're like puppet masters behind the string
yes,
who have like powers. Like I love when they get mad and they're like, "Do as I like," or whatever. And they'll totally
the
like
voice.
the voice, and even what's his name has it, and oh my God, Kevin, you know this. Like for me, nothing is more cathartically satisfying to me. I'm sorry, I know you're not necessarily a violence person per se, Sarah, but righteous violence, oh, it's damn near orgasmic. And basically at the end, like when like Muad'Dib does his thing and basically becomes emperor. Like, I'm sorry, even when Christopher Walken is like, no, his daughter, when Florence
Caroline.
like, spare his life and I'll take your hand, whatever. Like in my head, I had the Emperor from Star Wars going, do it. Like I was just like, nah, dude, take him out, right? But then I was like, no, he did the right thing. You got to be smart. You don't act in passion because it would be so satisfying to kill him. But nah. And then when he just bows, I was just like, yes. And
Always
then
thinking,
and
always
then
forward
the
thinking.
only thing that sucked, of course, was your girl's over there, man. And then she's like,
So
so I felt like even the way the movie ended with her just like, I'm Mariah Sand, we're off. Like that was like, fuck, but and it's almost, oh, you see, you never see me this excited, but like maybe you do. But like the when he literally goes, I will love you as long as I breathe or whatever, it's almost as if he knew what was going to go down.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
like, I know I'm about to go marry somebody else, but I love you, and he
yeah.
knew that was going to happen. All right,
Right.
you're going to say something.
Okay. So keep in mind, he did know what was going to happen because at this point he had imbibed the water of life. So
Yes.
that means he can basically see everything that's going to happen. He can see every, plot
Yeah.
line, every direction it's going to see the end piece. So when you say it's almost like he knew what was going on, he did. He knew what was going to happen. But I love that you mentioned Shani because that was one of the differences from
Oh,
the source material to this. Shani from the beginning was always like, I don't think you're Maudie, but whatever. Everyone else does. Shani was Paul's ride or die in the movie. So during that
he was
scene when
Mikasa.
yeah, exactly. So when that happened and he asked for Irulan's hand, she was like, "Oh man, do you want me to go? Because I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but do you want me to go?" And he was like, "No, you will never not be by my side again. This is political. Him and Paul and Irulan was political. You are the one I'm having babies with. You are my love. This is going to be." And Jessica told her, we're known as concubines, but history will remember us as wives. So
Mhm.
Chani stood by his side and was like, "Yep, Chani was his ride or die,"
In the
and
book.
that was it.
But
So
in the
in the
movie,
book.
she's
But
like,
in this movie, she was like, "What the hell, man?" Every time he got elevated, people were like, "Maudie, Maudie." He was like, you need to tone that down. He is not the Messiah. That is how people control you. that lie was made up by his people. Why are you guys believing it? And then, yeah, at the end, when Paul was gonna go with Irulan, Chani was just like, "We're not doing this," and walks away. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out in Dune Messiah, because yeah, it's there. All three of them kind of live together, so it's like how with Chani kind of going to fight the jihad, how is that going to affect her relationship with Paul in Messiah? So I'm very interested as to how that's going to change. Yeah, I loved the change of Chani, because she just kept it real in the movie the whole time. The whole time she was
Whole
not
time.
having any of his ascension to El Gaib. She was not having it. She was really
Standing
uncomfortable
up,
with it. Yep,
people pulling her
yep,
down, like, chill. She's like, no, fuck this. The whole
exactly,
time.
exactly. So I loved that change, but at the same time, like I said, when there's so much turbulence in their relationship in this movie, it'll be interesting to see how it changes during the third movie, during Dune Messiah.
I haven't felt this much anticipation and impatience for the next film since
This is gonna
Infinity
be
War.
rough. Nice.
Like after Infinity War, I was like, yo, I can't wait for the next movie. And we know how these movies go. So what, Dune 1 came out 2021. So we're looking at
Yep.
like 2026 or 7.
27.
Yeah,
Because
I don't think
he's already said he
Messiah
hasn't written
was.
it yet.
Yeah, I don't even think it was greenlit until right
Super
before this one came
recently.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like it was kind of up in the air.
Yep.
So it definitely hasn't started filming or anything yet.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it'll be interesting too, because
mm,
another liberty that was taken, I talked about the time gaps before. One of the time gaps is by the time Paul became a Fremen and rode the sandworm, he and Shani had had a baby. And obviously in the movie, they don't have a baby. And when the Harkonnens attack one of the sieges in the south, their baby gets killed. So that's not really why Paul drinks the water of life, but it definitely helps. He didn't see it coming, so he was like, "Oh man, I need to drink this water of life, so I know what's happening, because I didn't see that one going." So that was one that they took liberties, but I'm glad they did. I don't
No,
want
the
to see
liberty they
baby getting
made
killed.
sense. It was a tighter, it
It
was
did. It did. It did. But the other liberty they took is at the end, the fetus inside Jessica was a 2-year-old child that spoke like a grown person. And she
sure.
was actually the one that killed Vladimir Harkonnen. It wasn't Paul that took the dagger and said, "See you later, Grandpa." It was actually Aaliyah, which is her name. So again, taking out that gap made sense, but I'm interested to see. I mean, the whole third movie will definitely feature Aaliyah a lot more,
Mhm.
so she'll have
Just
time
like
to
Zoya.
develop. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, she should have shanked the grandpa, not Paul. But again, for the sake of moving the story forward without having to get bogged down in so many details,
Yeah.
it makes sense. But I was surprised that there was no baby Aaliyah in this movie.
All right.
So, but spoiler alert, Kevin, there's no baby
Hmm.
Aaliyah. she's
That's
still Jessica is still pregnant.
all right. Well, yeah, I'm excited for it. And the nice thing is I think it's I haven't religiously read Dune, right? Like I read it one time. I remember, the gist of it, and I thought the first movie followed it really well. So I think the
Mm-hmm.
things that are left out, I'll probably forget, right? Like if I go to watch this
Fair.
one, I won't get bogged down in those details. So I'll probably be fine. But when you mentioned them though, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. But even because I'm not young anymore, my brain is full of holes. By the time I watch it, I'll probably forget what we just talked about. So,
Same.
um, so it's nice. Like it'll be good. Andrew, your excitement for this, having not read the material, funny enough, reminds me of the way that I felt last week when I finished the Avatar series on Netflix. Um,
Ooh.
I never watched the original cartoon, and I finished the series. I was really happy with it. It's a good series. It is much better than it seems like it would be on the surface. Not just switch for just a second, but it is a movie about found family and war and loss, and or sorry, a show about found family, loss, war. There's like the opening scene is a full on genocide. Like it's a darker show than it should have been for a kid show.
Oh yeah.
So it was really good. If you haven't watched Avatar, the live action on Netflix, I thought it was pretty fantastic. I know the like the hardcore cartoon fans have some complaints because just like Dune, they changed some stuff, but from somebody that doesn't know the material at all, I thought it was fantastic.
That's good to know. I've
Yeah.
been wanting to see it. That was one of those things that I didn't really watch the first season. My husband was watching it, and I kind of would watch it in the background. But then by the second season, I was just sucked into it, and then I ended up finishing it and thought it was absolutely amazing. And I've been wanting to rewatch it forever, but haven't. And then once this live action came out, I figured I should start there, so it's not so fresh, so I don't have the criticisms in my
Yeah.
brain, like, oh, they didn't include that or whatever, and just
Yeah,
let it be
and to not
different.
have something to compare it to, I still like I walked away feeling like all of the casting was perfect.
Yeah,
Like to not be able to compare, like to know like they should have looked like this or they should have done that or whatever. Like everybody was so good. It was so good.
good, good.
So
To bring it back to Dune, because you
yeah.
talked about casting, and Andrew had already touched on this. The casting for Dune 2 was absolutely perfect. My only complaint, and I knew this would be a complaint once I heard it, was Andrew, do you have any guesses who my complaint might be for casting?
Actually, I mean, it would be a shot in the dark.
Okay.
But I would say Christopher Walken, maybe.
Christopher Walken. Yes, yes. I mean, the Emperor is old. That's fair. But Christopher Walkened the role.
Your dog's so cute. Ooh, so adorable. Wow.
I know he's a good actor, but since he's gotten older, he just doesn't have the range he did in his younger days. So I didn't picture the Emperor Padisha as a Christopher Walken type. And he was kind of like frail and
Oh, yeah.
sappy and a little soft. He seemed soft
Yes.
for the backstabbing, manipulative war Lord of the Galaxy type. So that was the only weird choice I thought they made. Otherwise, all the other casting was fantastic. And I was glad that Pugh, what's her
Florence Pugh.
It
Oh,
was Florence. It didn't
yeah.
sound weird. Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan. At first, I was like, she's perfect for it. That's great. But again, in the book, Princess Irulan is a narrator. She doesn't really have that many talking parts. And she's only really at the end. So in the movie, you see the Bene Gesserit like molding her and her actually being privy to all the pawns that the Bene
Machinations.
Gesserits. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she plays a bigger role in the movie than she did in the book, and I absolutely loved it. She nailed it. It'll be really fun to see her character in the second movie, or in the third movie, excuse me, because Irulan plays a pretty big part in the third movie, and she's not my favorite character in Dune Messiah. So it'll be fun to see Florence Pugh in not favorite role, just killing it because she's so good at everything she does.
She really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is real cinema. This is like
Seriously.
this is epic. It's like this might be blasphemy for some people, but like when I was a kid, I regarded the Star Wars films, the trilogy, as like this is like epic shit. And
Yep.
I feel like this is on that level and will
Yep.
be for decades.
Yep.
We're alive.
100% agree. Like I said, I compared it to Lord of the Rings. That's
Yes.
probably one of my also top 5 favorite I'm considering the entire trilogy as
Yeah.
one movie.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite movies, and this is absolutely up there. I'll buy it 17 times because I'll buy each movie individually. I'll buy it when it's a box set. Although I've heard Villanueva is not big on extended release and director's cut, like the movie is the movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we might not get the Lord of the Rings
He's not Zack
10-hour
Snyder.
version. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
not Zack Snyder.
No, but it's definitely that level. It'll be, you know, kids will remember seeing that. Maybe kids won't see it with their parents, but teenagers will see it with their parents.
Yeah.
They'll show it to their kids. They'll watch it for years to come. It
I think
has staying power.
that's the biggest barrier to success for this movie, is just that it's such a heavy topic. Like
Yes.
it's not
Yeah,
as
fair.
attractive to young viewers as even Lord of the Rings was.
Yep.
But it is definitely,
But it's so
it's a
epic
story
that it
worth
takes.
watching. Yeah. It is the definition of an epic. Like
Yep.
Dune is definitely the definition of an epic. Like it's a hell of a story. So
The
yeah.
last thing I'll say is I'm all about resilience. And I feel like this movie also galvanized me. Like I got billed on something. I have a big fat credit card charge for like this like subscription I had for my job, and I was pissed. But then I was like, dude, like you're not like going through the Arrakis. Like stop it. That's literally how that's what I do. So like that's why I like Attack on Titan. That's why I like Dune. That's why I like shit where people have to go through some shit to be the shit. Because that way it's like, dude, like it's okay. Like really just carry on and overcome.
Yep. And I mean, that was a constant theme throughout Dune, was the Fremen were such good fighters because they grew up in Arrakis, this tough planet, this desert life. They had to be connected to the land, and they had to be good fighters to fight off all these imperialists trying to steal all their natural resources. So they were naturally good fighters. The Sardaukar were part of a prison planet, and it was the same thing. Like this prison planet was completely depraved because that makes good warriors. So that's what it is. That's why the Atreides were kind of hunted by the Emperor, is because Duncan Idaho and Josh Brolin,
Gurney Halleck.
Gurney Halleck were training their men to be as good of fighters as the Sardaukar, as the Freeman. And then, that was Leo Atreides' entire, he was going to harvest the spice, but his main point of going to Arrakis was to side with the Fremen, so they'd fight with him. So that was part of the reason why the Empire wanted to, nix him. So it's resiliency is a very reoccurring theme in Dune. So, but I'm excited for Kevin to see it. Lauren, I hope it piques your interest to see it, because it's going to be talked about for sure. It's going to be analyzed for sure, and it's got the staying power. It's 10 out of 10.
It is a great story, and
it
it is great storytelling. So, my only thing with it is that as a public figure, I'm not a big Denis Villeneuve fan. I think he needs to just shut up and make movies, because he says some dumb stuff every now and then.
Oh, is he one of those that was like, superhero movies are stupid? Everyone
Yes,
watches
100%.
them like
But the
stupid.
fact that I now like him says so much. Like, to me, if talent
Right?
outshines your idiocy, then I'm down. I'm sorry. Like, you get to be an asshole because your shit is dope. I'm sorry. Like, in my opinion.
Yeah, but you don't get to shit in somebody else's Cheerios. Like, you can't tell people what cinema is just because you've made 5 movies. Like, that's fine, but it's just, I don't know. I don't know. Don't be a dick. Like, I actually say the same thing about Scorsese when he was like saying dumb shit like a year ago. And Scorsese, like, as far as track record goes,
but your track record's like 1900. Like, I'm sorry. Like, what was the last dope movie you made? Like,
Scorsese?
I'm jealous now. Yeah. Dope
like 2 years ago.
I was just say Flower.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Was it really? Okay, fine.
Departed.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well, Departed
Departed
is
was
like
amazing.
25 years ago now, something like that, maybe more.
Shut up.
No, it
Yeah,
was.
like
Are you
Really?
serious? No, that was like 2000s.
Yeah, it's early
yeah, the
2000s.
2000s were
It
20
is
years ago, man.
2024.
That's not 25.
Boo.
Hold on.
I'm gonna guess 2004, 2005.
Yeah, I would say probably
God, was it really that
2005-ish,
long ago?
2004-ish. But that's still
Yeah.
20 years. I mean, that's a long time.
2006.
Six.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, so, okay.
18 years ago.
Okay, 18 years, my
That's
bad.
still a long
So
time.
that's basically like, I don't know.
No, that's still a long time.
Hey, that movie is old enough to vote, dude. Like,
It is an adult. God, that's
like,
crazy.
that
18 years.
my point exactly. But
Yeah.
no, but fine. Flowers of the Killer Moon or whatever, like cool. But like, I'm sorry, Dune Part 2 versus Flowers of the Killer Moon or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, Dune 2 all day. Sorry.
Yeah, but Call Me When it's his Denis Villeneuve's 30th Oscar nominated movie.
Yeah. I mean, I get your criticism, but at the same
Yeah.
time, even though he's only had 5 films, I feel like they've all been
Progressively better.
absolutely epic. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
my
even
thing
the one
with
he started
Dune,
off with, because
I wanna
Sicario
s-
was his like second film.
yeah, I need to see what he does after Dune, right? Because
That's
Dune,
fair.
Okay.
to be fair, Dune is not his creation. Like it's his visualization, and it's his adaptation, but it's not his creation.
Arrival.
So whatever comes next, that's fine. Like he may be great, but like until you create something that's on this level, because like I almost feel bad for him because whatever he does next probably won't be this epic, right? Like it'll
I
have
don't
to.
think he can go higher than this.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an unfortunate place to be when you're on the rise because you know you don't want to peak too early, but at least if the next thing's great, then he's good. But like his attitude on, oh, I think TV is killing movies because movies have too much dialogue. I'm like, dude, this is not like this is not the era we're in. Like, understand your age, man. Like we are in a, and not every movie needs dialogue, right? Like that's a fair point, but dialogue is a key part to a lot of excellent movies.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say
I
this
mean,
on
excellent media in general.
Mhm.
I'm very dialogue driven. Most of my favorite
Yeah.
books are dialogue heavy,
Yeah.
not description heavy.
Yeah.
So
So,
I
like,
appreciate dialogue.
sorry, I got to like Pulp Fiction is very much a dialogue film.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas Mad
perfect
Max Fury
example.
Road is not, right? And I saw the Furiosa trailer before this, by the way. That
Yay!
was good. And so I just feel like I think Villeneuve is a hater. Like I will say that he's a fucking hater and whatever. But but I get what he's saying because his film is like there was dialogue, but not a whole lot. It was more just visuals and just and I think it's the same thing with Fury Road, and will probably be the same with Furiosa. It's just leave it alone. Stop hating. But you can't. I mean, no one's perfect, and I just feel like he's a hater, but he's fucking talented. And
I also think though Hollywood, that's just Hollywood in general. Every director
egos.
is an egotistical,
Yeah.
pompous megalomaniac kind of thing, and I think that this is just across the board. There might be a few who aren't, the ones that are happy to be here and just get the opportunities, but
John
someone like
Favreau.
him who's already had
Yeah.
so many epic films, he's in that category that he's just like, what? Touch me. I can't. Everything I touch turns to gold. So, because it's like I looked up his films too. He did Sicario and Arrival back to back.
Yeah.
So that's like 2 bangers, one after the other. Before
Was
that,
Arrival an
Enemy.
adaptation though? Also, I feel like Arrival
was
was.
it? I think it was. I think you're right. I think it was based on a book.
Yeah.
But even the adaptation thing argument, though, it's kind of like, remember, what's his name?
But he's writing the
Lynch.
adaptation.
Lynch
Yeah.
did. Yeah, he writes the adaptation. And Lynch adapted Dune 84 and it sucked. So for me,
was
it's like,
awful.
right? So like, just because you're taking something source material still means you can fuck it up, So it's like,
Absolutely.
if you take source material and make a movie and make it good, I still think you should get credit for that.
Sure,
I
to a
agree.
degree.
I'm on Andrew's
To a
side.
degree. But yeah, I think you get less You know, if that's
Really?
well, I mean, if that's what you're claiming, right? Then fine. You know, if you're a writer director, but all you're doing is adaptations, yes, that is a skill. Yes, that is something that needs to be done with care and with a level of expertise. But there's something to be said for creating an original story also. And I think when you're
Sure.
criticizing what everybody else is doing and your primary job is to adapt other people's work, like are how many legs do you have to stand on in that case? Like, I don't know, especially and like I said, like you look at Villanueva's history, he's got great films. He's got a handful of great films, but they're all pretty close together and there's only like 5 or 6. So
Mhm.
we're not talking about the largest, you know,
Catalog.
catalog of films, you know.
Arrival is based on a short story. I can't believe
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
big guy, but I am. Just because I love the movie that much. I will own it. Hans Zimmer
Good.
did a hell of a score, and now I feel bad because Lauren has been sitting there for like an hour
Right?
and
Just
all
waiting to
he
talk
wants is to
about
talk about
something.
American fiction. So we could probably hope the listeners enjoyed the Dune 2 talk. It was a terrible movie. Definitely don't see it. It was terrible. Yeah, no.
I hope it
Full
makes a buttload
rating.
of money, which is it's a hard thing to do because
And it
does it
is
is it R
already.
rated?
Oh yeah, it's rated
No, it's
R.
not. It's PG-13.
Wait,
Okay,
oh, you're
good.
right.
That is, you know, one
Budget 190, box office so far 223. It'll be fine.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I knew it was PG-13 because I was shocked. And it makes sense. It's not gratuitous. Of course, it's violent. It's
Yeah.
not gratuitous. And that's cutting some of that source material was a really good choice because now you can appeal to even a wider audience. And that's what I was getting at before, like parents taking their teenage kids, their high school kids, because I loved this book growing up type
Hmm.
thing. So that's what'll absolutely give it staying power too.
Yeah. All right, cool. So Dune 2, not a bad movie. So
2 thumbs
then
up.
yeah, so then moving on to I think Lauren started our like group watch of American fiction because you watched this in the theater, right, Lauren?
I did.
Yeah, and so Andrew rented it on Amazon and I watched it on MGM Plus, all within the last like week and a half. It I don't know how it's doing at the box office offhand.
Love.
Um, but
It was less than 10 million, did 22.5 million.
the budget was less than 10 million.
Mhm.
That's good. I mean, considering the cast they have with just
This
Jeffrey
was
Wright and Sterling
definitely
K. Brown.
a mission movie. Like I think that the director, Cord Jefferson, like he found the book and was like, this is an important topic. So I think when you get the cast together, who are all, I think, pretty, you know,
Yeah.
conscious people. I didn't use the W word because it's been co-opted and ruined. I'm talking about woke. But they're all conscious people. They knew this movie needed to be made. So yeah, they probably took a huge pay cut to do it. And yeah, it's an important topic. And I think it hasn't really been touched upon since probably the early 2000s.
Well, when the book was written, you know,
Yeah.
like it's I read some interesting articles. Before we get to that, I mean, let's talk about the movie a little bit. Just I want, especially because she hasn't had a chance to talk. I want to hear Lauren's take first, since she saw it first. But also, I think you know, from what you said in chat and stuff, you didn't sound like you were 100% like this is the greatest movie I've ever seen kind of thing. So I want to hear your take, you know, before we dig too far into it.
Yeah, so the past couple of weeks I've been doing my research. I'm trying to find movies that have a high critic score as well as just movies that are getting a lot of Oscar buzz. So I decided myself and a few ladies from my girls group to see American Fiction. And I don't want to say I had high hopes, but based on all the reviews and the research I had done, I was really excited to see it. And I'll be honest with you, I think it was an interesting story, but I wasn't crazy about it, to be honest with you. I think there were scenes that definitely, tear at your heartstrings because of what Jeffrey Wright's character and his family is experiencing, because quite frankly, it's a very dysfunctional family. He's got his own stuff that he's dealing with internally. He is an English professor on the West Coast. His family is pretty much mostly all on the East Coast, with the exception of his brother, who's closeted at this point. And yeah, I think this tragedy that brings them together really does bring them closer. And he's able to write this successful novel. And it's humorous at a lot of points too, because he's a very traditional writer and very by the book as a professor. And then as like a mockery, he writes this this book that ends up getting retitled to the word fuck, which is hilarious. And just how, I don't know, like, I mean, Andrew, you said the W word, but even just how like the publishing companies are like appeasing to him after he goes under this pseudonym and being like, yeah, I'm a former convict and I wrote this, and everyone's like, oh, produce it, as in like, that's what America, and that's what is hot right now. And he was just making a point, but then he ends up going with this book that he made as a mockery because he needs the money to support his mother.
And they threw a ridiculous amount of money at him for it.
Right. And
Yeah.
it was a joke. He's like, yeah, this is garbage. And then this, as he quotes, like, not very serious. It seems like he wrote it within like a few days, like didn't actually put his heart and soul into this book. But it kind of is, I think, a bit symbolic of like our society now to some degree, with just like, you see all of these, I don't want to say lack of talent, but you see all of these YouTube stars come to rise, or like Instagram people that come, become rich overnight. And it kind of speaks to like the millennial generation, where it's not about like working hard, but working smart and knowing your audience and the psychology of what people want, So he makes a mockery out of it, but yet the whole joke is, by him making a mockery and creating something that was so anti what he would normally put out, or as he would say, I think, just not something with like real solid content or really made you think type of content, as he put it. Like, he made it sound like it was not something that he would normally write. How this was a smash hit and made him a lot of money. So, but yeah, I didn't love it. I did like the little love story that was in between. I definitely appreciated the family dynamic and how they portrayed his life outside of writing. And yeah, I thought it was an interesting story for sure. In some respects, I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. Watch it win Best Picture. But yeah, and it's funny because whenever I think of Jeffrey Wright, I'm thinking of him in like the most recent Batman. So it was really great to see him in a more, centered protagonist type of role. And I think he really grew as a character throughout the film. He was very angry and hateful at the beginning, and I think just him writing this, and he was like shedding off, a lot of weight that was on his shoulders. And I think he came to terms with some issues that he had with his family that he was able to resolve during the movie.
Yeah. I told Andrew in our chats that for me this was like two movies in one, right? You had this really great family human story that if you take the satire story out of it, it's still what this man is going through. Like his life, all his mom, becoming senile or dealing with that, his brother being gay, him trying to have a relationship and having his own secret that he can't share with her, that is what drives what you're there. I mean, there's a whole story there that is just a movie in itself. And then you have this satiric take on an industry that, when you really read into it, is relatively accurate. The whole issue that is brought up in that regard when this book was written in 2003, I think it was 2001, 2003, when it gets called out in a book back then, shouldn't be exactly the same as it is today, but it kind of is. Like, when you look at the publishing industry, there's only a handful of people of color working as editors in anything, above minimal roles. But though I don't remember if it was the article, Andrew, that you sent, or if it was the one that I found, but um, there was this there was another movie made recently called The Other Black Girl, I think is what it's called. And it was about a black woman working relatively high up in the publishing industry as an editor. And then they hired another black female editor, and her first, thought basically was, I'm on the way out. Like this is they're moving somebody into the quota spot that I'm holding, and so I'm going to be on my way out. Right. And so to see this from that standpoint is it's kind of depressing. Like, and from a writer's standpoint, he makes the point in the bookstore. He's like, yes, I'm a black author, but he's like, I'm just an author. Like he's like, I just wrote the stories. It doesn't have to be, entirely about what people want to see as the black experience, right? And Andrew,
Right.
you've talked about this with hip hop and things like that. Like, it seems to be that it's more popular when it's
Gangsta.
um yeah.
Basically, like even when Notorious B.I.G. wasn't really big with like the quote unquote crossover audience until after he was killed.
Mhm.
Basically what the movie is about, as far as what his battle is that he basically, like, America or mainstream culture doesn't buy anything as authentically black unless it's gangstified or ghetto or whatever. So he wrote this book as a fuck you. It's like basically he's like, why is my book being put in the African American studies section because it's not going to sell?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Why are these books here?
I'm not sure. I would imagine that this author, Ellison, is black.
That's me, Ellison.
Yeah.
He is me, and he and I are black.
Oh, bingo.
No bingo, Ned. These books have nothing to do with African American studies. They're just literature. The blackest thing about this one is the ink.
Why are my manuscripts always being rejected because they're not black enough? And then Issa Rae's character has this book that comes out with a ridiculously, like, ebonic out title.
Yeah.
So he's like, what the hell? So he runs his own thing. And then he goes to so far to say the name of my book is fuck, just to like not
Yeah,
get this
in the
book
phone call, like
published.
he changes the name.
And
He's like, I'm
they
going to change the
changed it.
name.
For shock value. And then all of a sudden the publishing companies are like, hold on a sec, let's check on that. And then they're like, oh, we got to do what he says because this is, going to be the next big seller.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll change it from, what was it originally? It was like mafia or
No,
no,
my pathology.
my
Instead of
pathology.
instead of
So-
pathology, it was with an F
My
instead of a TH.
pathology.
It's like you
He
can
was
tell,
so
like,
resistant, and like you said, Andrew, he was so resistant and at this point just like against this going to be big. And then he's like, I'm just gonna like dig the hole even deeper by changing the title from my pathology to fuck.
because he wanted it to be stopped because he didn't think he would go with it.
he was trying to push
He was
them
trying to stop it, and they still went with it. Then when
Right.
he even actually when he goes to the ceremony and admits that this was a hoax,
Yeah.
the producer is still like, this is still, we can still make money off of this, so we're going to change the ending, not from like what happened at the end to we'll have him shot at the ceremony by the cops because like he's holding the trophy and they're like, gun, and that's the end.
yeah.
We need this violence because basically unless it's like black trauma like slavery or gangsters, like mainstream America is not interested. And the way the movie ends, which is very kind of like there's no real ending, it's open-ended, saying that this is still the way it is when you think about it.
Yep.
The movie itself, I think, was very much like your regular terms of endearment. It could be any like movie about a family drama. And what they're saying is like, but that almost feels different. Like, I think people aren't used to seeing black people not being ghetto or slaves or overcoming some sort of trauma. It's right now it's even horror films, so that's all good. But like, that's what made the film, I think, for me, super refreshing. Like the fact that how many times do you see a film where One guy's a plastic surgeon. The sister's a doctor. He's a writer. You know, it's
Yeah.
like you don't really see that. You don't see them living in like, you know, Massachusetts, like on in
And
Cape
having a
Cod.
beach house, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
like
don't
they're
see
they're
that.
very successful,
So,
right? Like
but these are real people. They're people out there who exist, but they're kind of invisible. And that's why even the book is called Erasure. So I think that, you know, ultimately what I'm surprised about is how well it's been received by, you know, the quote unquote Hollywood elite, because I think a lot of the Hollywood elite is even being mocked because a
mhm.
lot of like I think they call them limousine liberals or something like that. Like a lot of them will be the ones who are like, who would say, oh yes, fuck is a great book. Like they're almost so powered by white guilt that they'll take
Well,
anything and
there's
then
the
put it up.
scene. There's the scene when they're
Critics, right?
yeah, when they're
That
judging
was
the
the
book.
best scene.
And the critics, so there's three white people on the panel, two black people. It's him and Issa Rae, which his conversation with Issa Rae in that scene is also fantastic because you find
Yes.
out
Her
she is
motivation.
exactly who he has become in this movie, but she understood it from the start.
Yeah.
So she was passionate about doing what he was doing as a throwaway because she's like, this is what's going to make me money. She's like, this
Yeah.
is what they want, so fuck them. I'm just
She's
going to
not
do
like
it.
don't hate the player, hate the game. That was her
Exactly.
perspective. You know,
And
I'm just
so
playing the game.
yeah,
She
and
accepts
so
the reality in the situation, whereas he's like fighting against the
yeah,
reality.
yeah. But when they're talking about the book and
The
both
two
him and
black
Issa Rae are
critics.
like, we don't
No.
think this should win the thing, and then the white people are like, yeah, but we need to listen to black voices right now, and
No,
you're
this
like, two black voices just
no,
said
even better.
no,
It was
and the
literally
three,
like we overrule you. It's
yes,
three against
exactly,
two. We overrule you. And after they've overruled them to get this
yeah,
book, fuck, as the winner, then they're like, it's so great that black voices have been heard today.
yeah,
For the two black voices in the room just said
just got shut
no.
Shut
down,
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it's so it really and so many things, like even the fact, like even in the beginning where like the N-word's on the blackboard because
right
it's
in,
like
in the
it's
little
part
white
of the
girl,
book. And yeah, the pink-haired or blue-haired white girl is like, I'm offended by that word. And I think rightly he's like, if I can deal with it, so can you. You
yeah,
know, but obviously you can't say that because there's snowflakes. So it's like there is some friction between, you know, people who are of a certain group and then people outside who are allies who almost kind of overstep like they're like, no, like we get to speak for you now because like, you know, it's like, come on, dude, like let's chill a little bit. So I think a lot of things were brought up in this movie, but I do think because a lot of it is very layered, a lot of it can just go whew, like over
oh
people's
sure,
heads.
Yeah.
sure,
But ultimately, um, even just being nominated, I think is huge. I mean, I think Jeffrey Wright did win, I think, the Independent Spirit Award for Best Actor. I don't think he's going to get the
no,
Academy.
I don't think so either, and he's great in it, like everybody's really good in it,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know that. I don't know what award this would win. Adaptation, maybe, because it's an adaptation of the novel and it's got
Yeah.
its changes, but otherwise, yeah. I mean, it's to me, it was really good. It's a 93% from the critics, 96% from the audience of Rotten Tomatoes. So it's doing really well. I saw a really interesting clip of an interview. There was I don't know what it was. It was a woman on a podcast, and I wish I could remember who she was or what the podcast was, but I'm going to be useless in that regard. But it was a white woman, and she was being interviewed by a black man, and she said, basically, she's like, what she finds is that because you know, the whole white privilege thing, because white people don't look at it like privilege, they miss a lot. She said she's like she actually feels like black people understand white people better because the when black people are looking at this position, the white position of power privilege shit, they're seeing the whole picture, whereas the with the people that are privileged don't see the privilege. They're like, this is just how my life is. And so when you cut out part of your vision, you're not seeing everything. So the people that are not getting the positive effects are going to see the kind of irony or whatever it is there. And it was an interesting take. And for just a second, like the dude that was doing the interview was kind of like, what are you saying right now? Like, she, like, because I don't know, she said something else first, and I wish I could find the interview. I'll try and see if I can find it and toss it in real quick or something, but it was
Yeah,
interesting.
two things that what you said reminded me of how like the a lot of the English or British actors are doing a lot of the American roles. Because again, when you live outside of the US and so much of media is American, they can do our accents better than we can do of theirs because American accents are so everywhere. So that's one way to look at it. I just checked. Yeah. So basically, Jeffrey Wright won and Best Screenplay at the Independent Spirit Awards on the 25th of this year. So, but yeah, I do think it's the screenplay and Jeffrey Wright who I think are going to be celebrated here. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see like just how this film does. I know Ari, you're one of the watchers of the podcast. You just said you watched it tonight, as a matter of fact. So let me know what you think. I think overall, I did like the human story. I do think that there was a nice LGBT kind of nod in terms of
His brother.
Sterling
Brown's character just kind of accepting himself and how his mom, who's having dementia, goes from like being kind of homophobic to ending up dancing with like his two gay friends at the party. So, it really was, I think, a well layered film. And I would just recommend it to anyone who just wants to see something different because I do think it was something different.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're not going in for the satire of it, there's still a really good just story. Like the family story is good.
I
I
gotta
think that's the
say,
part that I like the most, honestly, the
Mhm.
family story. Personally, with that film, just like noticing that here's a dysfunctional family in some regard, and just how this tragic event of the sister passing really just brings them all together in many respects, and especially just Jeffrey Wright's character. What? Oh, you're laughing.
No, this is not you. It's just when they're pouring her ashes on the beach, and it was in one of the trailers. But
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
funny.
you have a permit?
Yeah, the white guy was like, "Is that human remains?" Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Even
Yeah,
your
I mean, there's
graphic.
definitely a lot of scenes where, I was laughing because I was like, this is
Yeah.
just so they're pushing the envelope here, but in a
Yeah.
way that I appreciated. But yeah, I think you said it perfectly, Kevin. It was really like two movies that were kind of like merged into one, which I was a little, I don't know, I wasn't crazy about personally, but I did connect, I think, more with just his family life and him as the professor and what went on outside of that. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting concept, and it definitely challenges, as Andrew said, what the Black experience and how it's portrayed in media. It's definitely, it goes, I'm actually shocked that it got, so much, not even attention, but really just support in general, because it goes against the traditional narrative that we're seeing in theaters, et cetera. But hopefully this type of story will help produce more work where you get more of a variety in terms of just what does the Black experience look like nowadays.
One thing that I
Yeah,
thought was really interesting too, real quick, is that they said that so the writer of the novel was black then, and was named Cord Patterson, made
he's
the movie. He's
biracial, but yes.
oh, is he biracial? Okay. But they tried, so this New York Times article that I read, said they reached out to the original author, what's his name?
Percival Everett.
Yeah, Percival Everett. And he's like, I won't do any interviews for the book. He's like, I will do interviews with Cord Patterson about the movie, but he actually won't talk about the book anymore. And I think, just speculating, but I think some of it's the frustration that things haven't changed in,
Yeah.
in 20 years, and you're really still seeing this industry still look at things in the same way, despite,
Right.
when this book came out, it was supposed to be eye-opening, right? Like, it was, even though it was, again, it was a satire also, but it was supposed to be eye-opening, and it was for about 10 minutes, and then it was gone again. So the question is, will this movie have the opportunity to have an impact, or will it, you know, open eyes and give everybody the chance to be like, oh, I see the problem, and then not do anything about it?
Well, I will
Wow.
say, my mom actually told me this the other day. Apparently, CBS is going to be rolling out a new soap opera that is mostly an African American cast or Black cast that's coming out, and I'm like, I can't think of anything like more, I mean, I'll just say it, more white than like a soap opera or maybe like a
That's true.
telenovela. No, truly, and I
Yeah.
was like kind of shocked by that, but thinking about like talking about this in general, I'm like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Like CBS is putting out a soap opera. Let's see how that goes. Like, I'm curious, like, if people are going to watch it and what that will look like, because when you think of like soap operas, most of the characters are, very well off, and, like their dialogue and issues and drama are more like, I'm just going to say it, like first world problems. Like when you think about it in some
Yeah.
regards, it's like,
I think they're being naughty because Shonda Rhimes, I think, is basically
Yeah.
like, that's the kind of person who did. She's a Black woman, right? But I think she's
Yeah.
Right.
the one behind all those shows in ABC.
Yes.
I do think that the whole romance thing is universal, and I think that because America has become a lot more like when you go watch an '80s film, yeah, that's white as hell, right? But I feel like now things have changed. So you don't even necessarily have to like, I think white people will watch other people of color now. Maybe back in the '80s they wouldn't have, but now they will. So I personally don't, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm not a romance guy. I'm not a comedy guy, but I also know that not everyone's into sci-fi and shit like I am, right?
Yeah.
I think there's nothing more mainstream than a soap, honestly.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
And
Yeah.
so because of that, I think it's going to be fine. I think it'll be fine, but again, I have no bone in this
Well, and the
race.
question is, what stories do they tell, right? Do they lean into the fuck side of the story, or do they lean into the General Hospital? Like
I'm guessing General Hospital.
I hope so.
No,
but
they'd be idiots if they did anything different, and I don't think people are that dumb anymore. But we'll see.
yeah,
But I was
yeah.
just gonna
I
say,
don't count anybody out when it comes to stupid.
true.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say, like, even the graphic though, I think is really smart. But as far as
Mhm.
like literally being overlaid with thug on his knuckles and just
Right.
everything like that. Like, I think at the end of the day, like that was almost like maybe like the main thrust of the movie. But I think that the family part of it is almost like I'm giving you a solution at the same time, that this is actually a reality that we can talk about. We're not all like one dimension, and that's it. It's really cool.
Okay, cool. So got this email yesterday. I won the Broadway lottery for An Enemy of the People, and this is a play that was written in the late 1800s. It's a Henrik Ibsen play that I guess was readapted throughout the 20th century, and it takes place in, I believe, Norway. It's about this man who's played by Jeremy Strong, who's Dr. Stockman, and this doctor is working in this community, and this community is pretty much profiting off of the water system and the baths that they're providing to give tourists and visitors, a wonderful experience when they're coming to visit. And Jeremy Strong's character happens to be the physician of the baths, this resort, as they refer to it. And after running some tests and noticing like a trend in visitors becoming sick, and they reference typhoid as being like a major medical issue that they're noticing as a trend, he runs some tests and does his own research, and he ends up getting a letter towards the beginning of the play proving that there is some very harmful bacteria, microorganisms that are in the actual water that is being put into these baths. Now, because the baths and water system is like a huge economic source for the town, it kind of wavers between the, hey, should we be honest about this because this is what we're profiting on here in this, and they didn't say like the actual town, but the city, or should we, fix it, but this is going to really screw with the townspeople because we're going to end up having to remake the aqueduct systems and to move things around. This development will be very expensive, which will cause higher taxes, and these people in general, like the average Joe, cannot afford higher taxes. So it really puts this main character, Dr. Stockman, in a true predicament. his brother happens to be the mayor and head councilman of this town, who is also, like a political villain in the sense, right? Because for him, this is everything to have this bath and to have this resort, and anything that goes wrong with the resort, it negatively impacts him, his reputation as the mayor. So it's an internal conflict of just like, what's the right thing to do by telling the truth or not. And then it kind of unravels, and more people get involved within the media and the local paper, because the people who are a part of the paper are average Joes who are, not the highest wage earners, and they will be severely impacted if they actually leak this story about what's actually going on and what's in the water. They will not be able to put food on the table. So it's to the point where Jeremy Strong's character, who is Dr. Stockman, is the only one, him and his daughter, who are standing up in almost like a town square saying, guys, this water is harmful. We need to do something about it. And then from there, everyone kind of turns on them, and the mayor and all of the people working at the paper and in that local news sector, they turn on him and say that what he has to report is all lies, it's theories. And it's just funny because the person that I went with to this play, we kept on comparing it to what's going on with the water issues in Flint, Michigan, and even just the whole realm of issues and questioning during COVID. Like, who do we believe, the government or the scientists? And like just teetering between just trying to uncover truth versus myth, and going from there. And it was just very fascinating seeing this type of story that can be compared to so many real life examples that we've seen in America over the past 2-3 decades, and how this I don't know if it was based on a true story or whatnot, but it was in the late 1800s, but how this play really does uncover similar type of issues. The other film that actually came to mind was the movie, Andrew, I recommended this to you, I don't know if you have seen it yet, but Concussion, with Will Smith, which is about have you seen it, Kevin?
No, but I've heard of it. It's about the football, like the whole football helmet.
Right, the football helmet, the whole, and I forgot what it's called. It's like CTE or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a traumatic like brain injury that causes some harmful effects down the line, and how this one doctor was able to uncover this, told, numerous amount of people, told the NFL, told, the media, and like nobody wanted to like spread the story, because NFL is in general is such a popular and profitable entity here in the US. So it kind of, reminded me of that movie as well. So it is a common theme of just a man who is really challenging societal norms and seeing like who actually has the ability to have some sort of like, just like social conscience at the end of the day. And how some of these people, like even within the newspaper, were originally on a side, like, yeah, we need to send and make multiple copies of the story. Oh, wait, but if we do, we're all gonna not be able to put food on our tables, and our town's gonna basically go to shit, essentially, as a result of not being able to have these baths. And even them coming up with like a solution to this was a bit problematic as well, because they're like, what if we just move the aqueducts? Because basically it was like harmful bacteria that was like coming from a swamp that was going into the baths. And from what they were saying, like human droppings were even like going into the bath and stuff like that, and making people really, really sick. And I mean, the play ends with him saying, all right, well, I'm pretty much been shunned. I've lost my job. My daughter has lost her job. We're going to stay here, but we're just going to be here to observe all of this unravel and more people to get sick. And you all are just going to have to come to us at the end of the day and say, oh, I guess you were right. These weren't just rumors. This is reality.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'd be curious to see it, because it's a play and not a movie. So it's definitely a different, like, it's different feel when you get something like that. And it's definitely more focused on, funny enough, talking about Villeneuve and his hate of dialogue. But when you watch theater, it's all about dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's it's interesting to see a story told that way. It looks like it was, like you said, it was originally Norwegian. It was created in 1882,
Yeah.
and then adapted to, now it takes place in Greece, I think is what it says.
Yeah, there was definitely some like Greek references
Yeah.
too in the show. The interesting thing was that midway through the show, they it wasn't even a real intermission, but they had 5 minutes. They brought a bar down in the middle of the stage and they gave everyone shots, and we all started going into the middle of the stage. I've never seen something like this before, and I'm an avid theater goer. Andrew can attest to that. So we were my friend and I, we were standing in like the standing room, and then we go to the center and they give us shots, and it's the actual actors that are like handing out the shots. It's so odd. And then we go back to our seats and they tell some of the people from the audience to sit on the sides, because that's when they start having like the town's meeting, where Jeremy Strong stands on the top of the bar to like relay, hey guys, what's going on is that you're all going to get sick, people are going to die, and they have like the audience sort of involved, and we're all like immersed
Immersive.
in this actual experience, especially like the people that were, I guess, had seats. The actual name of the theater is like Circle in the Square Theater. So there are seats surrounding the entire stage.
I was just going to ask if it was done in the round. So it was. Okay.
Yep, exactly. So all the actors made sure, like throughout, each scene, to turn like at least 4 different ways when they're doing a certain dialogue. So it was creatively done. But yeah, and then when he gets like booed and stoned, they throw ice into the bar and he's like down. It's just, it was interesting. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. Like we're gonna have a 5-minute break, and then they just start giving everyone shots, and 2 of the women start singing in I believe Norwegian. I don't really know, but it was a very interactive experience, considering it was such a serious play with a theme that you wouldn't exactly think, all right, let's be very inviting and include the audience.
Yeah, it
So
almost sounds like a little bit of experimental theater going on.
truly, yeah. And the interesting thing is, it's, I guess, a touring show, because it's only going to be in New York for 15, 16 weeks. So if anyone's in New York, I do recommend it. Play the lottery. Was selling $39 per ticket. But yeah, it was really great. I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know much going in, other than, hey, it's a Norwegian play about a guy, a doctor, and he finds some sort of, an interesting discovery that's kind of going against the morals of the townspeople, and that's all I knew.
That's cool. Yeah, that's an interesting story, because I think it's got something to say, right? Because you can sit on either side of that coin, right? It's almost like when you take a story about a parent and they've got to pick between saving their child and saving,
Right.
20 people or something like that. It's like what is it? The trolley problem, right? When you use that as a logic problem, do you save one person? Or you save, 100? Do you tell the truth and make sure that everything gets fixed up, or do you protect your town where you have all these lives that you're responsible for?
Right.
Like, it is definitely, it's an interesting, like, moral story that I think is,
Right.
and I don't even know, like, I don't even know what's the right answer. Like, really, what's the right answer? Do you bankrupt your people, be like, sorry guys, we're all screwed now, we can go work for, we can open a Walmart factory and get underpaid until we, die. But like, it's, yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to have to think about.
And they make it like super personal too, because all of the townspeople and like 2 of the main characters work for whatever articles in the newspaper that's local, and they're very gung-ho when he finds out this discovery. Yes, we need to tell everybody and protect the people. Oh, but we're all going to lose everything. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Which is really, it just shows people's moral compass and how people behave based on, I hate to say it, but their own individual needs.
Mhm.
So yeah, highly recommended. I was impressed. I was very impressed by how it was done, how it was just not even just the acting, but how they had performance and set up in that type of theater, how they interacted with the audience, and just having people sit along the square just to interact as if like we're there experiencing this man telling us that something horrible is going on in their town and we need to be prepared. So that was pretty cool. We felt very involved.
Yeah, the only show that I could think of that I haven't seen it unfortunately, but I've heard has something similar was the Scarlet Pimpernel, and that came out a long fucking time ago. But the character that is the Scarlet Pimpernel is way over the top, very over the top. And after intermission, he when everybody comes back in, he's literally sitting in the audience, and then starts to like talk to people and brings people into the show before he comes back up on stage and then continues the show because he's just such an over the top character. And the idea behind that one is that you have this guy that's I don't remember if he's in politics or what, but he's a regular dude, but then he's also fighting against his own government as this almost like OG superhero, right? Like this vigilante guy, the Scarlet Pimpernel, going up against his own government because he doesn't agree with them, but in real life he has to, be, the good politician. And
Sounds like Congress and just how people truly feel versus what are their constituents actually want.
Yeah. It's that show's actually a lot of fun. Really, some really great music in that one. But yeah,
forgive me, but me in my INTJ-ness loves being sort of right. And basically, I'll just share this little tidbit. First of all, your mom is dope because I'm reading an article from NPR from March 8th. That's Thursday. CBS and the NAACP are teaming up to develop an all-new soap opera, the first new daytime drama with a predominantly Black cast to air on TV in decades. Okay, so if the NAACP is involved, yes, the NAACP are involved, they're not going to fuck it up. The person who is writing for it has written more than 2,000 episodes of daytime television and won multiple daytime Emmy Awards for her work on The Bold and the Beautiful, General Hospital. And then basically, the series is going to be called The Gates. It follows the lives of wealthy black family in a posh gated community. And the last time it happened was a show called Generations, which aired between 89 and 91. And after just 13 months, it was canceled. Now, the reason why those years are important is because that's the New Jack era. This is now I'm plugging myself. The New Jack era, 88 to 92, was a period when I would say Blackness, African-Americanness in music was upwardly mobile. So you had people like Bobby Brown, TLC, En Vogue. Like it wasn't N-words and hoes and weed and drinking. Like gangster rap took over after the LA riots. So basically to me, it's like, it was very, and A Different World, I forgot to mention, A Different World was a Black college cast on Thursday night. Yeah, The Cosby Show sucks what happened with Bill Cosby as far as like you ruining your legacy. But anyway, Cosby Show at 9. Yeah, and then A Different World at 9:30, and that was literally, at least in Canada. And that was like, that's crazy. And then after that, it became, of course, Friends and Seinfeld. So, but Thursday night used to be a Black night on NBC. So the thing is, things kind of ebb and flow. So 88 to 92, you had a Black soap opera, crazy. Arsenio Hall was a Black talk show. Like it was a different era. Then shit regressed. And now we're kind of maybe going back to another like positive thing. So anyway, it's not going to suck. It's going to be good. Like I said, they'd have to be idiots.
Well, to be fair, it's a soap opera, so it's going to suck a little, but hopefully it's
as far as representation goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as they do it as right as they can. Like I have watched soap operas in the past, and they are weirdly entrancing for being as awful as they are. Like, and the one thing that's super impressive about them is they just fucking crank. Like when they make a soap opera, like somebody is writing all day, every day until the next day. And like what's crazy about a soap opera is you watch it, they'll do some scenes and they'll finish. And the next day they'll pick up those exact same scenes. So like over the course of the year, you've watched like I don't know, maybe 2 weeks of like life, but they also experience the holidays somehow. Like it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like the things that happen in soap operas is so weird.
For me, it's just
But
like everyone's dying, but if you don't see the body, they're coming back.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah, yeah,
they're never dead until you actually see them dead. And then maybe they're not dead.
yeah.
They'll come
Even
back
then,
as
it's a
like
little questionable.
a twin who looks like them. You know, it's just there's always like a way for someone to come back into a show.
Yeah.
But my mom is a big fan, hey mom, of General Hospital. She watches it. I know personally I cannot call her between 3 p.m. and 3:59 p.m. during the week because that is her General Hospital time. But yeah, so this does sound promising if they're getting people like or former what you said producers or of All My Children and General Hospital or writers, like this is going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also heard that if you're an actor in a soap opera, you have to have a really good memory because you're literally remembering scripts and then moving on.
Oh,
You
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
crank that shit out.
Yeah,
And
you're
what's
learning
his
something
name?
new every single day.
Didn't Creed why am I forgetting his name? Killmonger, wasn't he a soap opera guy?
I couldn't remember. I was trying to remember what actor
Yeah,
that
I think
all
he
of a sudden made
was.
it to the
Well,
mainstream, and he said
Jensen
all of this
Ackles
is
was.
easy compared to soap operas. 'Cause
Michael B.
we
Jordan.
get a script
Yeah.
and we shoot. We get a script and
That's
we
right.
shoot, and
Michael B.
it's just
Jordan was in
constant.
All My Children, I think, right?
Yeah.
Oh, anyways.
Yeah, a
Thank
lot
you
of
for letting me do
people like get in there and get out. Some people love it. Like it's it's a job, and they
Yep.
they dig it up. But it's got to be hard. It's got to be like hard. Like so when you film a movie, you have time between scenes. Like you only have to learn one scene or two scenes for a day, right?
You get more
Like
take.
you get a ton of takes. TV
Real.
is
You're
different.
like, okay, moving on.
Yeah,
You fucked it up.
regular TV is a little different because you film an episode and you have a week to film an episode, so you're still kind of in that same boat, but you have to work harder. I think to get that stuff done. Soaps, you don't even have that. Soaps, you have overnight. You get the next day's script, and you're working on it, and they're like, the way they turn this stuff out is unbelievable. Like
It's expensive too because they have to, between like you said, the taping, the costumes, just everything. That's why they cut so many of them within the past 10, 15 years. There's only I think
Like
there used to
three
be like
left.
eight to 10. There's only
oh
what?
yeah,
3. I think
There's
it
only
is.
3 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Because it's so like you said, Andrew, they can't mess this up because it's so expensive in
Yeah.
general.
What three is it? Is it Young and the Restless, General Hospital,
All My Children.
and As the
Days
World
of Our
Turns?
Lives, I thought, right?
It's General Hospital, which is on ABC, Young and the Restless, and Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
Bold and Beautiful,
Yeah.
which have all been going since the 80s.
All My Children is gone.
Oh yeah, it's been gone.
Has it really? Okay.
Days of Our Lives is now on Peacock only.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
So I guess 4, but 3 on broadcast.
That's crazy. That's crazy. There was a stretch of time when there was like
One Life to Live,
Yeah.
Santa Barbara.
yeah. There was a General
Fighting
Hospital
Late.
spin-off. Like
Passions. Yeah. But you know what? Here's the other thing too. And I'm curious if this is going to have any impact, but you didn't have like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Prime and with all of these like different shows that are being released and streamed. So I'm curious too, is that going to have any effect on this and even just the future of soap operas? And
You guys remember why they're called soap operas? I can tell you.
yeah, tell me, because I actually know the answer to that and I can't remember.
All right, because obviously stay-at-home moms, basically all the cleaning products, Tide, like, Palmolive, like all the cleaning products from stay-at-home moms would basically fund these shows. They were all the commercials. So that's why they're called soap operas.
I was going to say advertisers. I should have just
Correct.
blurted it
Yeah.
out.
So
basically, because streaming now is kind of shifting the model. Yes, there's still ads, but it's not the same.
Well, but now streaming is starting to push to put ads back in unless you pay more.
True.
There's a
Yep.
whole lawsuit coming against Amazon about that because Amazon was like, cool, well, those of you that are paying this price, we're just going to throw in commercials unless you pay more.
Yes.
And so there's some folks out there that are like, no, you can't change the terms. You can offer a lesser package that has ads, but you can't tell us that we're paying this, But like, I think there wouldn't have been a lawsuit had they said, "Here's your plan. We're going to increase the rate X amount, and there's going to be one that's X amount less that and then has ads," because Netflix has changed
Totally
the
got that.
rates a ton of times.
Mhm.
Like the rates
Like
for
every
Netflix
few
have gone
months.
way up. Like I want to say it's like $20 a month now or something like that. It used to be like 11. Like
And that's when
Netflix
you
is
got
expensive.
like 3 DVDs in the mail.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's definitely like it's different, and I think part of it is some of that's the revenue, and what
The
it's
board.
a hard thing to track too. Like funny enough, for as much as I think Zack Snyder is a crazy person, he did make a good point in the stupid thing he said about his Rebel Moon versus Barbie,
Oh, the
where
viewership.
where he said, oh, he's like, so many more people saw Rebel Moon than Barbie because it was streaming on Netflix, and their model is, so innovative. And on the one hand, he's right. Like it was put in front of more faces more accessibly because nobody had to leave their house. Nobody had to pay to see it. They were already paying for the service. So yes, more people started it. But the real question should be how many people started and finished, or how many people started and got 75% of the way through. Like that should be the actual metric. Because if you fall asleep, Netflix is just going to suggest something like it is very possible. And then he made up some stat about, well, Netflix assumes two people watch everything, that, so one view is actually two people. And there was some really interesting math behind that one. Um, but the fact that Barbie was so successful in the theater, is still an interesting number to put up. And he sounded kind of like an ass in the way that they just kind of titled, which is media now anyways, right? It's the shock value of the title versus kind of what he's actually saying. And what he was really saying was more about the model of Netflix and how, when you put a film out or a TV show or whatever you put out on Netflix, it has more opportunity than something in the theater or even on network television, because that's where everybody's eyes are now. And when you, like I said, when you don't have to leave the house and you don't have to pay extra to go watch it, it's easier. The what I was going to watch tonight, but I was too tired to start it, so I'll talk about it next week, or watch it and talk about it next week. Is the new Millie Bobby Brown movie that just dropped on Netflix, Damsel. Um, I don't know if it's good or bad. I've seen one review that said it was great and had an exciting ending from Nerdist, and then was it IGN gave it like a 3. So I have no idea what's coming. I think
Thanks,
Rotten
Greg.
Tomatoes has it like 59%. So my expectations are a little low. But at the same time, like I think my expectations were a little low anyways. It doesn't it looks like a fun movie. It doesn't look like a great movie. And I think that for me there always has to be that distinction, right? Like um if it's not going to be, Oppenheimer, right? It's the when you put Barbie versus Oppenheimer, Barbie was it had some things to say, but it was a fun movie, right? Like it made all its money because it was fun and it was new and it was interesting and different. And Oppenheimer was heavy and intelligent and thought provoking and and all that. So you got definitely two different experiences, but both can be rated high without being the same thing.
Sarah, by the way, thank you so much for coming because I
Of
know
course.
you came for Dune. You stayed, which is amazing. But at the same time, I want to make sure I want anyone to feel obligated to like stay. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm not obligated. I was really interested in the conversations you had, and I'm definitely going to check out that one American
fiction.
Fiction
Yeah.
movie. I'm definitely going to check that out. And I'm bummed that I don't live in New York because that place sounds exactly what I would like. And I swear, if this was 2 hours earlier, I would have contributed a lot more to that conversation. But my brain is just not sharp at almost midnight. It is just not. So, but thank you for having me to discuss Dune, to nerd out. Andrew, I always appreciate nerding out with you. Kevin, I can't wait until
Yeah.
you see the movie and I
I'm
get to
super
actually
excited.
hear your opinion on it. Lauren, it's good talking with you. I've liked both of the recommendations you made, so hopefully I get to talk with you guys again. But thank you so much for having me. I'm definitely taking my ass to sleep.
Have a good night then.
Bye, folks.
I'm going to bed.
All right.
Good night.
Night. That was fun.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. So for us, do you have anything else? The only other thing I have really is Shogun.
Yeah, that's all I have too.
But damn, that show's good.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like I feel like this third episode for me was kind of more of a bridge. I think I preferred the second one to the third, but I'm still gonna finish that whole damn thing. But that was just kind of my immediate take. But you might feel differently. And actually, last time we talked, you'd only seen the first one, so now you can
Yes.
second and third.
Yeah, yeah. I just think it's really interesting. I think we're starting to, like you said, maybe it's a little bit of a bridge, but for this third episode, we're finally starting to see um where the Mariko character is going to go and where she's going to go with our British friend. Um, it seems like that will end up in a romance of some kind. I don't know the details, so I've never watched the original. I've never read the book. I know there's a lot of uh, cover art and things like that from the old one that suggests that they're probably a couple. Um, but I mean, there's so much good political intrigue in this. We're starting to see, um, where party lines are and how they're going to shift. I think one of the really interesting stories is how badly the Catholics want our British friend to die, right? Because he's a heretic in their mind, right? Like
He's Protestant.
he's Protestant and they're Catholic,
Mhm.
right? And so um you've got that, and then if he doesn't die, then who's on whose side here, right? If what's his name, um not our main
Baraga?
character, the head,
Oh,
kind of our head bad guy at
Bushido.
this point, Ishido. Yeah,
Bushido.
he if he can't get this dude dead, is he inefficient as a leader in his own way? You know, so it's been interesting in the way that our I keep saying our British friend, what's his name, Blackthorn,
Blackthorn. John
Black
Blackthorn.
Blackthorn, the way that he ingratiated himself when they were trying to move the guy's wife, does not, I need to bring up names so I can actually speak to this, but um
Toranaga's wife.
yeah, Toranaga, there you go. When they're trying to get his wife out and they were being super sneaky about it.
Mhm.
And when that other army started coming in and they were going to check the carriage again, and he kind of threw himself in the way, he took a beating
Yeah.
to protect this family, because he at least has the understanding that this is the only way he's going to survive,
Yeah.
right? Like he is smart. And I like the way they brought back our is he Portuguese? Is Richard from Lost, is he Portuguese? Rodriguez.
I believe he is. But let me make sure.
Um,
But yeah, you know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's back because I was hoping he wasn't necessarily Vasco Rodriguez. That sounds
Vasco.
Portuguese to me.
Yeah, yeah. He's a good number one. He's a great character, and
Yes.
their relationship is great. The way they just kind of shit on each other back and forth.
How fast can that bitch go, Rodriguez? Your lips are on the devil's arse. They're on your mother's first.
I like too that I know this is made for FX, and I don't know how it plays out when it's on television, if it even matters anymore. But they're dropping F bombs.
Yeah.
It is an adult show for sure.
Mhm.
And if once it's streaming, you have different rating rules on streaming, right? Like,
So that explains the first
yeah,
episode scene.
yeah.
All right.
So you can get away with that stuff on streaming. I don't know if it was edited out on FX, or if
Most likely.
FX was just like, yeah, fuck it, it's TVMA. If you're watching it, understand the rating, which is possible. I think we're kind of in that era now. There was a long time when there wasn't a TV rating system, right? So if it was on TV, you just couldn't. But I don't know what the rules are around that. But it's been good, and like I said, even before it started, it is such a visually beautiful show. Like
Mhm.
everything, the costumes, the sets, the the backgrounds, the location work, all that has been really good, and the acting is good. I'm definitely getting better and better about the subtitles. Like it helped that in this one, they're starting to lean more into the English as Mariko has been learning English for 18 years, or no, she's been learning Portuguese for 18 years. What we see as English is actually them speaking Portuguese, but they've at least given us a reprieve from subtitles on that.
Yes.
Um, but um, it's yeah, it is a lot of subtitles. Like it definitely, like I can see where some people may not be into that, but this is an epic show. Like it is.
Yeah.
It is really, really good. I don't know how many seasons it's supposed to get. I don't know if it's all
I
told in one
saw
season.
something. I actually saw like I saw something in my feed where I didn't get a chance to read it that said, yeah, the chances of this getting a second season are slim. But like to me, it was almost like, well, this seems like a pretty like the story seems like it's a complete story, and that's what they're going to tell. If it's just a
Yeah.
novel, and it was a miniseries originally, so um,
But
yeah,
for
who
for
knows?
for me personally, if the story that they want to tell is told in 10 episodes, I don't need another season.
Yeah,
Let these writers and producers go out and find some other piece of material that is amazing and do that.
yeah,
Like that's what um Craig Mazin did with Chernobyl, right? He did Chernobyl, which was friggin' incredible. Then he turned around and teamed up with Neil Druckmann, and he's doing The Last of Us. And they know that while is a more open-ended story at this point, as far as how many seasons it's going to go, they still know there's a finite amount of seasons they're going to make on that. But I'm a huge fan, and this kind of comes out of British television too, of a show just saying, this is our story. We've told it. Well, we're good. We'll move on. Um, so if the 10 episodes of Shogun is all we ever get, and it's all this good through 10 episodes, then it's pretty solid.
I never thought of this until literally this podcast. And that is when you talked about British television being a little different, I think even the way the British entertainment industry is funded is different. I think that the state actually does pay for it more so than here. And I feel like maybe that's the reason, like they can just be not as commercially driven, right? I feel like in the US, especially like, for example, Lost, like the network is saying, yo, like we need more episodes. Like you've got to like make more episodes. Whereas if the Brits are more like, oh, like you're not going to make more money or that much more money with more episodes. Just we're going to fund this, do it, and then be done with your story, move on to the next project. So maybe that's the reason that there is more of a focus on story versus filler.
And I think too, I think that's why we're starting to see more anthology shows, out in the US. Like I think Black Mirror is technically British. At least the first season
Oh, it
was
has a
was
thousand percent.
British.
Yeah.
But that's an anthology, right? Or, well, that's even more of an anthology because each episode is its own thing. But take something like American Horror Story, which has been an anthology series, or what Mike Flanagan has done with Netflix, where he uses his same crew of people, but he tells one condensed story and then moves on to the next story. Um, I think, what is it? Beef is doing that. So Beef has cast
Yes.
its season 2, and it is not going to be the folks from season 1, which, on the one hand is a bit of a bummer because they had a great story, but at the same time, like their story was done,
Yes.
so let's move on to the next one and see where they go with that. And it's a good cast as Anne Hathaway,
Yep. Anne Hathaway's leading. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake
There's
Gyllenhaal.
two.
Okay.
And then there's
Did,
also
yeah, there's two good side characters too, right?
Charles
There's
Melton and Kaylee Spaney. I don't know who they are.
she's up and coming. She's in like 5 or 6 different things like right now. Like I had never heard of her, but she's all over the place right now. And then Charles Melton, I forget what he's in, but he's just done a couple of things too. It's like they're trying to grab your big names and your up and coming names and smash them in together to make um something good. But I have faith in the guys making Beef, so I'm excited for that one.
1000%.
But yeah, if Shogun is great, and it seems like it will be, it's an established novel. If it worked before, it should work now. Um, maybe do you know if the producers of this or the people behind this are all Japanese also, or is it white folk, making a movie where Hiroyuki Sanada was like, because I know he was all about the Japanese cast, like hardcore. Um,
Well, yeah, you know what? Oh, here we go. Shogun gets disappointing season 2 update. So what here says, despite its immense success, the prospects for second season appear bleak. Showrunners Rachel Kondo and Justin Mark. So I feel like
oh, Kondo sounds like it's probably,
exactly. But
yeah.
I think they're actually married. Have made
Okay.
it clear that the series was always intended to be a limited event covering the events of So it's they're basically saying there's no plan.
They're saying what we just said. Yeah, they're telling their story and they're done. If they are, it would be cool to see more people focus on, the Asian stories that we don't
Yes.
get right now in the same way. Um, I think we kind of need that. We get a lot of, um, we get a buttload of white television, right? And all that. Even Game of Thrones was, you know, pretty white. Um, and so for something to be like this, where it was so authentic, at least I hope it's authentic. I don't know, but uh, it being a period piece gives it a little leeway also. But it's nice to see stories told that we're not always used to seeing. Um,
Kondo is of Japanese descent. She grew up in Pukalani, Hawaii, got her MFA at University of Texas at Austin, and in 2017, her husband, Justin Marks, chose her to work as a supervising producer for the readaptation of Shogun. They've been working on this thing for almost a decade.
wow.
And Justin was a screenwriter for Top Gun Maverick. So,
All right.
he's rolling in the dough.
Yeah.
He went to Columbia, graduated in 2002, and yeah. But he also worked on Street Fighter, Legend of Chun-Li. He did work
That
on
was
He-Man, didn't work.
the
Didn't
Chun-Li
happen.
one was what's her name? She's a huge deal. She was in The Mandalorian.
Oh,
Ming
what's her
Ming Na.
name?
Ming Na.
I love her, dude.
She's fantastic. She'd be more fantastic if I could remember her name. Exactly.
Yo, he did Counterpart? Man, Justin Marks is legit. Okay,
What's Counterpart?
That was the movie. A sci-fi show on Stars with J.K. Simmons, where it's like two different
Yep.
dimensions.
Yep.
That
That
was
was really good.
Yeah, he created that.
All right. All right.
So the only movies he's done as a writer were Street Fighter, The Jungle Book, and then Top Gun Maverick. That is a hell of a track record. Just do three. Oh, and they were all spaced out: 2009, 2016, 2022. So his batting average is high. He's not prolific, but I think he's just choosy and methodical.
Yeah. Yeah. It's possible too. Does he have producer credits and stuff too? Like, is he working on other stuff that he's not writing?
So producer credits, a show called Rewind. It was 2013, never heard of it. He was executive producer for Counterpart, but he was also a writer, showrunner, and creator. And then for Shogun, writer, executive producer, showrunner, and creator. So, but that's it. I mean, that's all he's got. There's the writing credits, the 3 I told you about, and the 3 producing credits.
That's interesting. It's an interesting career because it's not easy to do that stuff unless you've already got money. So curious where his funds come from. Because you don't usually get to be a showrunner for anything without a track record. So
yeah,
he knows somebody. He got pictures of somebody with somebody's wife.
Well, it's funny you said that because during his senior year at Columbia, he befriended a literary manager who helped him launch his career in screenwriting. So maybe he's just a good hobnobber. Or
it is also possible. So one thing that can happen is if you write scripts and you sell them and they get reworked, your name can, come off of them, or you can sell them. I read an interesting post where somebody was super upset because somebody paid them to write a script. So somebody said, write this script for me. I'm buying this script from you. And then they got upset when the person that bought the script then edited and changed it and did a bunch of stuff to it, and then put their own name on it. But the legality of it is, if you write the script for someone else and sell it to them as a work that they are purchasing, you don't own it anymore.
Oh,
So your name, any changes they make are theirs because they purchased the script. They
okay.
own that script. So um, your ability to get a screenwriter credit and things like that um, are at least open-ended, if not just off the table. So there's a lot of people that will write something, and once it gets rewritten, they will never get credit for it. So it's possible that he's written a bunch of stuff,
I will never know about.
and that that he's just sold,
Yeah,
which isn't a bad thing. There's a lot of people that do that, that write scripts to,
get the money.
it's money, right? Um, so that's
He's
very
also
possible. Yeah.
writing Prince of Port-au-Prince, a Netflix CG animated feature film inspired by the childhood of Haitian singer and the Fugees co-founder Wyclef Jean.
Wow.
So
All right.
Justin's a pretty I think he has a good view of humanity.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. See, then that's all I ask for, is just stories that are. I like stories that are outside of the things that we're used to seeing, or that at least feel like the norm. Like, even, I mean, Beef definitely had an Asian,
Oh
take
yes,
to it, but it's still a relatively American story.
universal. Oh, and
Yeah,
American,
yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
And so something like Shogun is
California.
definitely, yeah, yeah,
Very
uh,
Cali. And you can and you know what I mean? Like you've lived in
yeah.
the Bay Area, so
Oh yeah,
it felt very Cali.
yeah,
So
yeah. L.A., San Francisco, all that. Yeah, definitely had that feel to it. But something like Shogun, um, has as is from a very specific perspective. So I think that more things like that are pretty special. Even something like Chernobyl, where you had the whole Russian angle of it, right? Like, that's a different story than we would normally get. So, um, yeah, I'm digging stuff like that. But Shogun, these couple of episodes are solid. I'm excited for the next one. Like, I really can't wait for the next one to come out. Um, and I'm almost more excited knowing that at 10 episodes it's over,
yes,
right? So there's not going to
savoring.
be anything left on the table. So we're going to get the beginning, the middle, and the end. So I'm excited for that too.
I love how I'm learning Japanese words. Like, if someone says like hayaku, like hayaku, like when he says hayaki, and he means hayaku, like hayaku means like faster, right?
Hmm.
I knew that from like my anime. Or when someone says like gives an order, you go po, like po means like yes, or like yes sir.
Hmm.
Like I love, and then even just all you know the authentic way people just the customs, like the way they bow, or the way they like sit, or the way just all the mannerisms are very, you can tell are very authentic. And it's a trip because like,
What,
you don't really see that like
what,
anywhere. And
what was the dude's name? Was it Ishido?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. The whole scene where he was just getting breakfast. So he comes out, they open he's got a whole crew of people. They open the door, they help him change his clothes, they set him up, they set down his food. There's this whole ceremony to this thing that I just thought was so, like, I mean, it sucks for the little people. Like, that's your job. You're like his little breakfast bitch, but like,
that's
it
it.
was this beautiful story of, like, or not story, but just the scene of, like, this is what it was. Like, this is how that, society functioned. I think there's another interesting character that they've only talked about a couple of times, and they glass over it, was the dude with leprosy that is one of the council leaders, and he's always behind a curtain and shit, and he looks all scary as hell. Um, but like, that was a problem back then, right? Like, it's not a problem now, but it was back then. So yeah, it's super interesting to see, like, this past slice of life and how they do things. And then when excuse me, there was a scene when Ishido was talking to, I forget who he was talking to, but then, um, uh, fuck, what's his name? Taka, was it
Toranaga.
Toranaga? God
Toranaga.
damn it, Toranaga. His right hand man shows up, and if you look at the floor, like, it's spaced out. So when he comes in to speak to Ishido, he sits like back and to the left, like he sits further back in a very specific spot. He prepares himself in a certain way before he can
That's
speak.
precisely what I was referring to when I talked about how they like that was the scene. Like,
Yeah.
you know, is that what we were talking about? Yes.
And it's just it's really cool, and it's really I don't know if it's 100% accurate. Like I hope it is. I assume that it is.
Yeah, I think Hiroyuki Sanada is not playing around. Like, he wants this to be.
He sounds like he went in hard for this and got what he wanted. And so to see these things play out is really cool, because like the last thing that I can remember seeing that was even similar to this was The Last Samurai with Tom
Oh my
Cruise.
God, yeah, that was
which is a good movie. Like I like that movie a lot. But you know, a lot of things are, you know, Japanese action films. Like we don't see a lot of this historical stuff, and so this is very, very interesting to see the way they do things. And did you get to any more of Blue Eyed Samurai yet?
Not yet. No, I'll get to it. You know, but once I finish this, then I'll go back and finish that.
That's just interesting because it's a later slice of life. But still, obviously the story is not true. And I think Shogun, while it has some roots in reality, isn't based on a true story either.
Correct. I did read it. It's based on someone who did do similar things.
Exactly. So it's loosely based. Yeah. And Blue Eyed Samurai is a story of a time, but not necessarily real characters, right? Like it's definitely over the top.
Oh yes.
And there's a couple of scenes where she does some tricky bouncing around, balancing shit where you're like, okay, this is definitely an anime in this part. You know, and they play with realism, but the idea of the story is still there. You have with that one, you have it's almost like the same story as Milan, right? Like a girl that wants to, you know, be a warrior and avenge, and she can't be a girl and do this shit, so she's got to hide it. And the way that ultimately plays out is actually really beautiful. They do some really amazing stuff with that in the last couple episodes. That's really cool. But you've got that, and then you have the Scottish warlord that's selling weapons, you know, and buying alliances and things like that. That did happen in that time period too. So yes, the story isn't necessarily real, and the people aren't real, but there are things about the story that are, you know, or at least in the background of the story that are. So it's interesting to see that stuff play out.
Sure.
So
well, I think this was another hot one. I keep saying it, but this is another hot one, I think. And we actually didn't do too bad on time.
No, I was looking at the clock and I was like, shit, that took us 3 hours. But I realized that my clocks automatically set themselves 1 hour forward for daylight savings time. So it was only about 2 hours. So that's good. So yeah, we're about where we were last time. So that's good. Like I said, next week I'll talk about Damsel. I'll talk about Shogun again. I know there's a few things coming out in the next several weeks. So I'll have to look up what those are, but there's a good little release schedule coming up over the next little bit. I saw something that at some point in March, we're going to see a trailer for the new show, The Acolyte, on Disney Plus, which is a Star Wars early Sith era show, which will be interesting. And that should release this summer, which is nice. But I don't know what else is coming out. Like I said, I know
X-Men.
stuff is X-Men 97.
Yep, that's on the 20th of March.
Yeah, something else comes out. Oh,
this June's going to be hot. We're going to have The Boys, season 5, and then Game of Thrones.
Yep. And there's something else too. There was one other thing in there. I don't remember what. I'm gonna have to get a calendar out and like put this stuff up and keep better track of it. But we really are in the stretch of good television right now. Stuff coming out. So
yeah,
we'll get going. We'll have some good stuff to talk about next week. So with that, I will say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Even though I haven't posted any audio, I suck. And we will see you next time. Is anybody besides Andrew and I myself, does anybody else into Star Trek at all?
No, sorry.
No? Okay.
Right?
Well,
Same, sorry.
this will be quick, but I want to show Andrew this because this is one of the things that infuriates me to no end about AI. So you see this article
Jesus.
says the multifaceted fortune and in-depth look at Jonathan Frakes' net worth. This is an AI generated picture of
Yep.
someone who is definitely not Jonathan Frakes. And
And
then later in the article, there's a different picture that looks a little
Oh
more
my
like him, but is still
God.
not him.
a little
And
bit
then
more
again
thoughtful
later
looking,
on,
softer.
they did it one more time, and it's still
Oops.
not him. No, sorry, a fourth time, and it's still not him.
That's terrible.
And
Wow.
like, I don't understand. Like, so this is where AI is coming into journalism now, because if you look at Jonathan Frakes, number one, this is one of the first thing that comes up if you search for him somehow. But this is
I was
Jonathan
just going to
Frakes.
say, why can't we use Google Images for these
I
things?
think that, yeah, there must be some legality to it. I don't know where this pops up in his image, in his name search, but um, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, all of these are legitimate pictures of Jonathan Frakes. Like, this is obviously what they were going for,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but
Didn't
like,
quite accomplish that.
yeah. And so to like write the article and then have the balls to post pictures that don't match up at
Represent.
all. Yeah. I was like,
I
wow.
think this whole article might be AI though, because what is that website? And
I've never heard of
cares
it.
about
It's
Multifaceted.
the best
best
stocks, beststocks.com.
this sounds very mad, like just Elaine Mendonca. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think the whole thing might be a bot.